The crystalline spires of Queen Zithra's flagship Infinite Web shuddered as another human missile punched through the outer hull. Private Marcus Hale pressed himself against the bulkhead, his rifle's barrel still smoking from the firefight that had claimed the rest of his squad. Through the transparent sections of the corridor, he could see the Terran fleet's assault cruisers hammering the massive arachnid vessel with everything they had. "All units, push forward." Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the dying comms before dissolving into static. Marcus was alone. He'd been separated during the breach, his team vaporized when an arachnid plasma mine detonated in Junction 7. Now he found himself deep in the enemy flagship, surrounded by the chittering of 1,000 mandibles and the acrid smell of alien pheromones signaling distress. The elite Royal Guard had been legendary throughout the war. 8-foot-tall gene-forged warriors with adamantine carapaces and reflexes that could snatch bullets from the air. Every intelligence briefing emphasized one fact: they would die before abandoning their queen. The hive-mind bond was absolute, unbreakable. Marcus turned a corner and froze. A dozen Royal Guards, massive, terrifying creatures that had held the line against entire platoons, were abandoning their posts. Their 8 legs carried them in frantic skitters toward the escape pods and ventilation shafts. One warrior, its carapace marked with honor scars from 100 battles, looked directly at Marcus with its cluster of black eyes before fleeing. They were running. The psychic network that bound them to Queen Zithra was screaming a single command that overrode centuries of conditioning: survive. Preserve the species. The Queen is already lost. Marcus's tactical display showed his position, deep in the throne spire, past the Royal Guard positions, with a clear path to the inner sanctum. The primary objective. Every soldier in the assault force had been briefed: eliminate Queen Zithra, and the entire arachnid armada would falter without her psychic coordination. He should call it in. Wait for reinforcements. But his comms were dead, the assault was failing on the outer decks, and those escape pods were launching. The guards who should have been an impenetrable wall were fleeing like their world was ending. Maybe it was. Marcus checked his ammunition: 2 magazines, 1 thermite charge, and his combat knife. Against a queen who could tear through reinforced steel with her bare appendages. Whose psychic scream could rupture blood vessels and shatter sanity. Who had personally killed 3 human generals in close combat during the early war years. The massive adamantine doors to the throne chamber loomed ahead, etched with glowing hieroglyphs that spoke of conquest and dominion. Behind them sat the heart of the enemy, alone, abandoned, but still utterly lethal. Marcus's hands trembled. Every instinct screamed to follow the guards, to run, to survive. He'd completed his duty just by making it this far. No one would fault a low-ranking private for retreating when facing impossible odds. He placed a breaching charge on the door. His hands stopped trembling. The explosion tore through the adamantine doors like thunder through crystal, sending fragments of ancient metal spinning across the vast throne chamber. Smoke billowed inward, and through it stepped not the expected human assault team, not the 40 elite soldiers who should have been stacking at the breach point, but a single figure. Private Marcus Hale emerged from the destruction, his armor cracked and scorched, blood streaming from wounds across his face and arms. His rifle was raised, steady despite the tremor in his damaged left leg. Queen Zithra rose from her crystalline throne. She was magnificent and terrible, 12 feet of evolutionary perfection, her carapace gleaming obsidian black with veins of bioluminescent purple pulsing beneath. 8 eyes arranged in a crown-like pattern fixed on the human with predatory focus. Her fangs, each the length of a sword, dripped with venom capable of liquefying steel. 4 massive legs supported her bulk while 4 more, tipped with razor edges, flexed in anticipation. But it was her companion who drew Marcus's second glance, a young arachnid female standing beside the throne, her navy blue chitinous skin marked with royal sigils. Blonde hair, an impossible genetic modification that signified the highest noble caste, cascaded down her humanoid upper torso. Princess Silvara, the intelligence reports had called her. The queen's heir and most trusted advisor. The princess's mandibles clicked in shock as she registered what she was seeing through the psychic network, the complete abandonment of the royal guard. The betrayal that had left her mother exposed. They fled. Queen Zithra's voice resonated in Marcus's mind, bypassing language entirely. The psychic pressure felt like nails being driven into his skull. My elite. My sworn protectors. They chose survival over honor. Over me. Marcus squeezed the trigger. Controlled bursts, just like training. The high-velocity round sparked off Zithra's carapace, chipping the nearly impenetrable armor but not penetrating. She didn't even flinch. And yet you advance, little human. The queen's psychic voice carried something unexpected, curiosity. Your squad is dead. Your fleet is dying. You are one broken soldier against a queen of the arachnid sovereignty. Why do you not run? Because someone has to hold the line, Marcus growled, ejecting his empty magazine and slamming in his last one. Even if everyone else breaks. Zithra's laugh echoed both audibly and psychically, a sound like breaking glass mixed with chittering mandibles. Then she moved. The queen crossed 50 feet in 2 seconds, her combat legs a blur. Marcus dove sideways, firing as he rolled. One round found a joint in her armor, drawing a spray of purple ichor. She screamed, a sound that shattered the crystalline decorations throughout the chamber and sent Marcus to his knees, hands clutching his helmet as his eardrums threatened to burst. Princess Silvara moved to flank him, her own smaller but equally deadly combat appendages extended. Marcus threw himself backward, barely avoiding a strike that would have bisected him. He pulled the thermite charge from his belt, his last explosive, and hurled it not at Zithra but at the princess. The queen's psychic shriek of protective fury rattled his teeth as she intercepted it, her armored leg batting the charge away. It detonated against a support pillar, sending molten metal spraying across the chamber. The distraction cost her. Marcus put 3 rounds through her forward right leg's primary joint. The queen stumbled, ichor pouring from the wound. You dare! Silvara's voice joined her mother's in his mind, younger and sharper. You dare harm her! I dare, Marcus rasped, raising his rifle again despite the blood now pouring from his nose from the psychic assault. Because I don't abandon my post. Queen Zithra's ichor pooled on the crystal floor, her damaged leg dragging but her other 7 moving with terrifying precision. Marcus had nowhere to run in the vast throne chamber. Every retreat was a tactical calculation, every step backward bringing him closer to the walls where she could corner him. The princess circled left while the queen pressed forward, their psychic coordination perfect despite the betrayal still echoing through their hive mind. They were apex predators, and Marcus was prey that had somehow wounded them. His rifle clicked empty. He dropped it, drawing his combat knife, 8 inches of monomolecular edged steel that suddenly felt pathetically small. The human hierarchy is fascinating, Zithra's psychic voice dripped with venom as she advanced. You elevate your elite, train them for years, give them the finest equipment. Yet here stands a private, the lowest rank, while your elites died in the outer corridors. What makes you different, little human? Marcus didn't answer. He was calculating angles, measuring the distance to the princess's exposed joints, noting how the queen's injured leg affected her lateral movement. His instructors at Basic would have laughed, a ground pounder planning to knife fight a queen who'd slaughtered generals. Silvara struck first, her combat appendage whistling through the air. Marcus dropped flat, rolled, and came up inside her guard. His knife found the soft joint where her navy blue armor plates met, drawing a line of purple blood. The princess shrieked, more in surprise than pain, and backpedaled. That momentary opening was all Zithra needed. Her massive claw caught Marcus across the chest, sending him flying. He crashed into a crystal pillar hard enough to crack both the pillar and several ribs. Blood filled his mouth. Mother, wait! Silvara's psychic voice carried unexpected urgency. Look at the network. The guard, they're watching. Through the hive-mind connection, every fleeing warrior felt the battle. They huddled in their escape pods and ventilation shafts, psychically linked to their queen's final moments, witnessing a single human soldier doing what they had failed to do, standing his ground against impossible odds. The shame was a psychic wave that rippled through the entire arachnid fleet. Marcus pushed himself upright, leaving a bloody smear on the crystal. His vision swam. 3 cracked ribs, possibly a punctured lung, definite concussion. The training manual would call this a tactical loss scenario, recommend immediate surrender or retreat. He spat blood and advanced. Magnificent, Zithra whispered psychically, and for the first time, Marcus heard something other than contempt. But futile. She charged, all remaining legs driving her forward like a battering ram. Marcus waited until the last possible second, then dove not backward but forward and to the side, the suicide move that every hand-to-hand instructor said to never attempt. He slid under her bulk on the ichor-slicked floor, knife extended upward. The monomolecular edge found the soft joint beneath her thorax, the one weak point in her lower armor. He dragged the blade through chitin and flesh as momentum carried him beneath and past her massive body. Zithra's scream shook the flagship. She stumbled, ichor fontaining from the wound. Silvara rushed to her mother's side, her blonde hair matted with her own blood, her navy blue skin pale with shock. Marcus struggled to his feet, knife dripping purple. The queen was mortally wounded but not dead, still deadly, still capable of killing him with a single blow. But she had stopped advancing. Why? The psychic voice was weak now, fading. Your mission is accomplished. I am dying. You could flee, claim survival. Why do you still stand? Marcus's legs shook. His vision was tunneling. But his knife remained raised. Because, he managed through broken ribs and bloodied lips, I'm a soldier. And soldiers don't abandon their posts. Queen Zithra collapsed onto her crystalline throne, the impact cracking the ancient seat that had witnessed 1,000 conquered worlds. Ichor pooled beneath her, spreading across intricate patterns etched into the floor, each line representing a species the arachnid sovereignty had subjugated. Soon her own blood would complete the design. Princess Silvara cradled her mother's massive head, her navy blue hands trembling as they tried futilely to staunch the wound beneath the thorax. Tears, an evolutionary adaptation the noble caste had developed to mimic their humanoid subjects, streaked her face, catching the light like diamonds against her blue skin. The guards, Zithra's psychic voice barely a whisper now, broadcasting weakly across the hive mind. They watch. They feel my death. Good. Let them witness the cost of their cowardice. Throughout the flagship, in escape pods and maintenance shafts, in hidden alcoves and medical bays, the elite royal guard felt their queen's agony. Warriors who had broken under fear now experienced a different kind of breaking, the shattering of honor, the weight of abandonment. Some keened in psychic anguish. Others shut down their hive-mind connection entirely, unable to bear the shame. But they all felt the human. The single, insignificant private who still stood in the throne chamber, still ready to fight despite his own mortal injuries. Marcus swayed on his feet, using a broken crystal shard as a crutch. His knife remained in his offhand, trained on the princess even as black spots danced across his vision. Every breath was agony through cracked ribs. Blood ran from wounds he couldn't even catalog anymore. You have won, Private Marcus Hale. Zithra's psychic voice spoke his name, pulled from his dying squad's last transmissions through the network. The fleet will falter without me. Your Terran forces will claim victory. Venara will fall. The war ends. Mother, please, Silvara's voice cracked both verbally and psychically. Her blonde hair fell across her mother's eyes as she pressed her face to the queen's carapace. The medical teams, if they return. They will not return. Zithra's mandibles clicked weakly. They chose survival. They chose, wisely, perhaps. A queen who can be abandoned is no queen at all. You weren't abandoned. Marcus's voice was raw, shocking both arachnids. They were afraid. Fear doesn't erase duty, but it doesn't erase honor either. They just broke. And you did not. Zithra's 8 eyes focused on him with fading intensity. Tell me, human. When you stood before those doors, knowing I waited inside, knowing your death was certain, what did you feel? Terror, Marcus admitted, sliding down to sit against the pillar. His leg wouldn't hold him anymore. Absolute terror. Thought about running 100 times. Then why? Because. Marcus coughed, blood spattering his visor. Because someone gave me this uniform and these orders. Because my squad died trusting I'd complete the mission. Because if everyone runs when they're scared, nothing matters anymore. No duty. No honor. No purpose. Silvara's eyes widened, her psychic presence flickering with something between grief and revelation. You were as afraid as the guards. But you stood anyway. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared, Marcus whispered. It means being scared and doing it anyway. Zithra's psychic laugh was bitter and somehow fond. We bred courage into our warriors through genetics and hive mind conditioning. Centuries of evolution to create fearless defenders. And they broke at the moment of truth. While you, unmodified, unconditioned, simply choosing, did not. The queen's breathing slowed, her bioluminescent veins dimming. I die with more respect for my enemy than my own guard. What a strange ending. Mother. Silvara's psychic scream tore through the network, and throughout the fleet, arachnid warriors felt their queen's death approaching. Silvara. Zithra's voice was fading fast. Remember this, human. Remember that courage is chosen, not bred. If we survive this war, we must learn this lesson. Promise me. I promise, Mother. I swear it. Queen Zithra's eyes found Marcus one last time. Thank you, Private Hale, for teaching me in death what I failed to learn in life. Your species is more than we believed. Her psychic presence winked out like a snuffed candle. The silence that followed was absolute. The psychic scream that tore through the arachnid fleet when Queen Zithra died wasn't a sound, it was the sudden, catastrophic absence of the central node that had coordinated 10,000 ships and millions of warriors. Like a body whose heart had stopped, the entire armada convulsed. On the bridge of the Terran flagship Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched in real time as the enemy formation dissolved. Capital ships drifted aimlessly, fighter squadrons scattered, and the defensive fire that had been chewing through human forces simply stopped. All ships, press the attack. Chen's order rippled through the Terran fleet. They're leaderless. End this now. But in the throne chamber of the Infinite Web, Private Marcus Hale wasn't thinking about the battle. He was watching Princess Silvara cradle her mother's body, her psychic grief radiating so powerfully it manifested as visible distortion in the air around her. I should kill you, Silvara's voice was hollow as her navy blue hand stroked her mother's carapace. Her blonde hair was matted with ichor. You murdered her. You came here to end her. I should tear you apart. Yeah, Marcus agreed, too exhausted to even raise his knife. You should. Silvara's combat appendages twitched, extending halfway before stopping. Through the hive mind, she felt the royal guard finally emerging from their hiding places, felt their shame and their desperate attempts to reach the throne chamber. Too late. Always too late. But she died respecting you, Silvara continued, her 8 eyes meeting his 2. She died believing you had taught her something. That your courage, chosen courage, was more valuable than our bred fearlessness. I felt it in her final moments. Admiration. For the enemy who killed her. Marcus's head lolled back against the crystal pillar. Didn't come here to be admired. Came here to complete the mission. Stop the war. Save lives. And you did. Silvara's psychic presence touched his mind, gentler than her mother's crushing force had been. Feel the network. The fleet is broken. Venara falls. The war ends. You won. Doesn't feel like winning. No, Silvara agreed quietly. It doesn't. The throne chamber doors finally burst open. Not with human breaching charges, but with desperate arachnid warriors. The royal guard returned too late, their honor in tatters. They froze when they saw their queen's body, their princess covered in ichor, and the single human soldier who had done what they could not. Stand down, Silvara's psychic command stopped them mid-charge. He has earned passage. Mother's last wish, that we learn from this human's courage. That lesson begins with honoring her final command. The guards' mandibles clicked in confusion and protest, but they lowered their weapons. Marcus felt hands, human hands, grabbing him as Terran forces finally breached through the outer corridors. Medics, soldiers, officers shouting questions he couldn't process. Someone was calling for emergency evacuation, others were taking tactical positions, but everyone stopped when they saw the scene before them. One private. One queen. One impossible victory. Get him to the med bay. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos. This soldier just won us the damn war. As they carried Marcus out, his fading vision caught Silvara one last time. She stood among her mother's body and the shamed guards, her navy blue skin and blonde hair stark against the dark ichor. Her psychic voice touched his mind privately, just for him. My mother was right about you, Marcus Hale. You are more than your species appears. When this war ends, when we rebuild, I will remember that courage is chosen. That a single soldier who refuses to abandon his post is worth more than 1,000 who flee. Thank you for that lesson. And I'm sorry it cost her life to learn it. Marcus's last conscious thought before the darkness took him was simple: I just did my duty. But across the arachnid sovereignty, in hive minds and fleet networks, in military academies and royal courts that would rise from the ashes of defeat, a legend was being born. The story of the elite guards who broke and the single human private who did not. Of Queen Zithra, who died respecting her killer more than her protectors. Of Princess Silvara, who learned that courage cannot be bred, only chosen. The Battle of Venara ended within hours. The war ended within weeks. But the legend of Marcus Hale, the soldier who stood alone when everyone else ran, would echo through both human and arachnid history for generations. Because in the end, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's standing your ground when terror screams to run. It's refusing to abandon your post, even when facing a queen alone. It's being the last one standing because someone has to be. And sometimes, that someone is just a private who refused to run.